Right. Excellent stuff. Well, thank you so much, Eleanor, for taking us through those thoughts from an educated perspective as well as from the malevolent perspective. And just as always with these things, they just run very quickly, and before you know it, you're almost coming to an end. I do want to ask a few questions, and I know given our audience of young and often chartered surveyors, we'll come back to a couple of questions around that. Yoshi, I guess to return to you very briefly, one of the questions we got coming in is what can we do as individuals and as consumers to engage with the greenwashing discussion, to detect it, to fight against it? What is there as individuals can we do?
Thank you so much, Dan, for that really important question. And actually to the audience, I'm going to keep my answer to this really short and simple. And it's that your pounds count, your dollars count, or your yen count. So what I mean is, we actually don't go to the polls once a year. We're actually voting with our wallet every single day. And it's actually really up to us consumers that is shaping this very world that we all live in. And it's really determined by the choices that we make. So, please support brands that are sustainable with your wallet. Start by educating yourself, right? Do your homework, research. If there's a particular brand that you support, take the time to read through the sustainability report, learn about certifications. Like, you are our biggest change maker. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Absolutely. Excellent stuff. Another question, Emma, which I'm going to come to you for. Do you think that this is an area which you can see ESG assurance in having value to ensure reported ESG data is trustworthy? This comes to the point about ESG data, doesn't it? About whether or not people can really rely on it. If ultimately the numbers that there are being trusted.
Exactly. Yeah. I have a long answer to this, but I'll give you the short one because we have little time. But yes, I think undoubtedly having some assurance helps. So up until recently, it's been Wild West. Companies can say really whatever they like about ESG, and putting some kind of lid on that will be useful. And there are certain things that lend themselves well to assurances. There are unfortunately also some issues with it, some things at least to be aware of. How is this data audited? A lot of greenwashing happens in the strategies, in the targets, in in promises and commitments, which don't lend themselves to assurances. This kind of qualitative information. They're also extremely complex and technical. To be able to assess whether a company's transition plan is legitimate and makes sense at all requires a range of expertise to understand. And as we know, there's a proliferation of people in ESG positions, but without necessarily having either qualifications or experiences to carry it out. So there's definitely a mismatch there in the expertise of, and perhaps this will change in time, but at the moment of being able to actually give assurances on some of that data. I think the short answer is exactly there are some of the quantitative stuff which will be useful. If a company says it's emitting this much emissions a year, then it's crazy that's not currently being, it hasn't been checked up until now. It would be great to have that checked, but we have to be very honest about the limitations of assurances over the qualitative stuff. Also just to say that, it depends on the data that they're given, the veracity, the extent, the integrity of the data that the accountants are given, depends almost entirely on the good faith of the company providing it, or other third parties. And frankly, we're talking about greenwashing because of a failure of good faith from the corporate sector.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to end with a nice broad question to you before concluding our remarks. I mean, and it's again another question from our audience, which is just I'm going to slightly summarize, but basically how can accountants influence decision making? I mean, ultimately, how you can run the numbers, you can do the audits, but how can you make the companies address and become more cognizant of the damage that they're doing on the environment and indeed on people and the other elements of the ESG agenda?
Yeah, I guess for me, it's that, I was going to say value add. It's not really value add, but it really is that piece around process and being able to step out where there isn't where there's a lack of transparency, and really questioning when you're being presented with information, having comfort as to where that's being sourced from, but then also help, I think, on the other side of the fence, then being able to assist with the development of some of those kind of strategic objectives with a view to kind of looking at the integrity and the process around it from an assurance perspective, and whether that's, I know, like in terms of limited assurance and the robustness around that, like I do feel like it's a step forward from that in terms of being able to give, an audit opinion and being able to stand over that, and given the kind of scrutiny that is on this at the moment. Like, I just think there really is a key place for us to be in there, and to use our position to kind of give that influence, I guess, because you're giving kind of your opinion and sign off on matters that are being disclosed. So I think that's probably coming at it from the assurance side, and then same with the advisory. It's really looking to challenge what's being presented, ensure integrity, and then ultimately use that to present back kind of whether it's alternative solutions, and that I think is really important. Again, I mentioned it, but as Emma said, this hugely collaborative. Like, it's not going to be one set of people that are solving the world's problems, that you have to be bringing in a range of people with a range of skill sets. And that's, to be honest, what I find the most enjoyable about working in this space, is that I get to work with people that traditionally, as an accountant, I wouldn't be sitting next to, somebody with a PhD in geology, or, that's talking about things that I don't have the technical expertise in. So to me, that's a key part of it, is developing those kind of multidisciplinary teams, so you can really look to kind of create influence, I guess.
Fantastic. I hope our audience has taken away a lot of interesting thoughts from that answer. And it's very sadly, there's a nice way to end, because I think it's very sadly we're coming to the end of the panel discussion. I always wish we could have more time during these panels, especially with such a fantastic group of speakers. So thank you again, all of you, for your brilliant insights. I know I've gained a huge deal from our short time together, and I hope our audience have found the session as useful. I would say that if you look at the broadcast page, there should be a link to the definition of what is greenwashing, which is a very handy guide, and also will refer to the term green hushing, which I referred to earlier. And we'll probably define it in a much better way than I struggle to do so. So please do look at some of the resources that are available, provided alongside this webinar. And don't forget to download your guide, which should have the key takeaways from today's session via the QR code on the screen. Again, hopefully it's flashing up, or simply by heading to the Chartered Accountants Worldwide website. And so, lastly, it comes to me to say a huge thank you to all our speakers today. A huge thank you to you all for joining us, and a huge thank you to our partners at Big Top Multimedia and A1 for bringing this event to life. So thank you again, and see you next time.